for all of the new builds at both Tolworth and Springfield, and also responsible for other activities in Barnes, Richmond and all our other sites. With me, who will also be talking today, is Sarah Adams, who is a nurse by trade and is the Estate Modernisation Programme Clinical and Operational Delivery Lead, and Angus Walker, who is the Trust's Stakeholder Engagement Community Manager. Or sorry, engagement manager, not community, stakeholder engagement manager, apologies for that. So this presentation is just to focus on the moves into the Trinity and Shaftesbury building at Springfield. We do other presentations for the rest of the site, but this is just focusing on Springfield and Trinity. Just a reminder that this is part of our investing in the future for the Trust, which does cover all boroughs. So whilst the crescendo for Springfield comes in the autumn this year, so September, October this year, when our 2 new buildings will be open, works are ongoing in Richmond. So we will see moving into Richmond Royal, returning there after a few years away in the spring of 2023. We've also got first part of our park opening in summer of 2023. Then Barnes returns back with a new Barnes facility in spring 2024. And then the third part of our park, or the last part of our park, opens in summer 2024. And finally, the final jewel in our crown, which is Tolworth, should be hopefully be delivered in the summer of 2025. Next slide, please. So again, as I said earlier, this is primarily focusing on Springfield University. Our whole site, anyone who's been to the site over the last few years has seen a lot of hoarding, a lot of construction going on. This starts to come to an end in the autumn of this year as our new buildings, the Trinity building, which is our non-forensic unit, and the Shaftesbury building, which is our forensic unit, when they open up. These 2 buildings have been in process for a good 7 years or more. We've held over 400 consultations with staff, with service users, with carers, and a great deal of engagement has happened to create these brand new buildings that are opening up. Next slide, please. As part of this, we have brought the community into us. So there's a new Springfield Village being created, very much at the heart of what the Trust wanted to do, bring the community into the heart of mental health, in line with our reducing the stigma of mental health. So this is a really positive aspect that we see, very much making our Trust the heart of the new Springfield Village. Next slide, please, Angus. So when does it happen? So the Trinity building, we're commencing our soft landings, which I'll talk about in a moment, next week or week after next, 11th of July that commences, and then we're looking to do our moves in September and October, and then Shaftesbury building we will look to late October when we move into there. Next slide, please. So what happens is in a few weeks' time, as I said earlier, we commence a soft landing period. Now, a soft landing period is when the building is not yet complete. It's still being very much worked on, but it's in the final stages of work happening to it. And it's in such a state that it's actually worthwhile for our staff and service users to come in and start getting used to the building prior to working in it. So it's an 8-week period of where all of our ward staff and our inpatient and outpatient staff will come. They'll get used to the facility, they'll conduct their mandatory training, so that when we do the actual physical moves, they'll be well versed in their new environments. So it's a really important part for us, soft landings. As part of that soft landings, we will be having 3 separate sessions, a morning, an afternoon and early evening, for service users and carers also to come and have a look at this new environment as well. And then just I'll go on to, or sorry, my colleague Sarah will talk about the move process now. That's great, thank you.
One of the things we're aware of is that moving is very stressful for people. So one of the things that we've been doing is working closely with our colleagues in the clinical services for about 9 or so months now to plan how the moves are going to happen. So we've been working through, and the idea is that to kind of ensure patients feel comfortable and that there's no concerns about things going missing or people worrying about where their belongings are. we will ask our patients to pack their own belongings. So they'll be given a box and they'll have a box each to pack all their belongings into. So they'll be supported by staff to do that. And they will then seal their own boxes, and anything they want to, they can carry over themselves, but everything will be moved over by professional movers once the boxes have been packed by our service users. What will happen is everything will be moved over, and then patients will arrive in the afternoon in the new ward, and they will be able to unpack all their own belongings in their new rooms. So they will be able to open the boxes themselves and make sure that everything is still there. And what we want to do is just try and reduce the amount of disruption that is going on for our service users. So we've got a named packing company now, a moving company, so they're going around and going onto the wards, and we're working with the staff now to think how best to go about managing the move process to make it as stress-free as possible. So if you go to the next slide, please. So when we move our inpatient wards, every patient will have a full risk assessment, where they will work with the staff on to plan out how the move will happen on the day to make sure that they're comfortable and that they're safe. And in what will happen on the day of the move is all the equipment and property will be moved over in the morning. So patients will have their breakfast as usual on their existing ward. All their property will be moved over in the morning along with all the other equipment on the ward. They will have lunch on their existing ward, and then they will move in the afternoon, and then they will have the afternoon then to unpack in their new environment, and then they will have dinner in their new environment. And a lot of the wards are talking about having it as a bit of a kind of a welcome party. So think about how we make this as nice and pleasant as possible, and so people just feel welcome into the new spaces. We'll make sure that there's additional staff available on the day. And we'll also, the EMP team will be available. We'll have extra security as well. So just trying to make sure that it's as smooth as possible on the day. Next slide, please. The plan for the outpatient moves is so any service that currently sees patients in Harewood House will see their patients in the new Trinity building, and the new outpatient services will formally launch on the 3rd of October. So we have an adult outpatient department and a CAMS, which is children and young people's mental health services outpatient departments, and they are separate areas. So all appointments will be in the same place they currently are up until the 30th of September. And then, so that's the Friday, and then on the Monday, the 3rd of October, the outpatient departments will formally launch and all the new appointments will take place in the new department. So information should have been sent out now to all of our patients and carers. And we've also put some standard information on all of our trust letters that are going out, which includes information about when the new outpatients will launch, and we'll ensure that all updated letters with outpatient appointments are sent out ahead of those the new launch of the outpatient departments. And then that's it. So I'll pass you over to Angus now to talk about the news into the community.
Thanks, Sarah. Hi, everyone. So as Bruce said at the start, I'm the stakeholder engagement manager for the Trust. That means I support on a wide range of comms and engagement around all the exciting things happening at Springfield and across our other sites as well. And one of those things has been what you can see on this slide, which is a flyer, a letter, and an FAQ, frequently asked questions document that we have produced to raise awareness of the moves that are coming up. So you'll see those around our sites at Springfield. As Sarah said, we've put that in a letter to patients as well. And all these materials are also available on our website, on our move page, which you might have seen on a previous slide. If you search Springfield Moves on our website, you can find all that information there too. I think that's my slide. I'm going to come back with some more stuff later, but I think I'll hand over to Bruce to talk you through the next couple of slides.
Yeah, brilliant. Thank you, Angus. So these few slides just show you what it looks like on the ground for the various buildings. So this is the rear of our Trinity building. So the top of this part of the slide, just underneath where the Trinity banner is, running alongside there, which you'll see in one of the future slides, is where the main road and main access point will be. So you'll see to the right of that drawing there, the main entrance is highlighted. So that will be the main entrance for all visitors, staff coming into the unit. And then the rear is where our deliveries and the car park entrance is. So there is some car parking, some 37 spaces or so within this building at the rear. Next slide, please. There you can see the main street I was talking about. So that's the other side of the view. So this is our Shaftesbury building. And you'll see to the left is where our existing story building is. So Glen Burnie Road, for those that come in, will come in from the left-hand side, and Burntwood Lane is the right-hand side of this slide. You can get here from either way. So this is the entrance of Shaftesbury building. You will see that the main entrance into the Shaftesbury building is you would go down between the two buildings, between Story and Shaftesbury building, towards where the existing Story building entrance is, and just on the right will be the entrance to the Shaftesbury building. There will also be the car park entrance. So the bulk of the trust car parking will be underneath the Shaftesbury building, and you can see the secure ambulance entrance there as well. I won't talk too much about the restaurant or Central Square. Angus will cover that later on. So the next few slides are just a few. So there's a bird's eye view of what I've just explained. So you can see in the centre is our two new buildings. So the top left is the Trinity building, you've got the square, and then you've got the Shaftesbury building. I think what this slide really demonstrates is all the new housing that's going to be surrounding our site. And so everything else is all new housing that has facilitated this hospital development. Next slide, please. And then just a few pictures. So this is the main entrance to the Trinity building. This is Trinity building again. Yeah, that's thanks. More bits of the Trinity building. And then you can see the Shaftesbury building to your left, and you can just see the long street that's going to go down with the hospitals on the left, housing on the right. Next slide. It's just to show how advanced it is and how great. And there you go. That's a bit more of a Chapel Square that Angus will talk about, and some of the retail units. And that's the Shaftesbury building there. And then just a few more views of things that you'll see. We're putting in some foliage, and this is the view from one of the gardens that will be filled in with a secure mesh. But you can just see the views that some of the people will get. Next slide. And back over to Angus.
That's back to me at this point. Thanks, Bruce. This slide just explains a bit about a project we've been doing with an arts and mental health charity called Hospital Rooms, whose mission is to make hospital environments sort of more vibrant through lots of different artwork. So they work with professional artists, and they've ran over 80 workshops, art workshops of staff and service users over the past 6 months. The point of which was to inform 20 specially commissioned artworks that are going to go into our new buildings. So that process has been happening for sort of the past year, and we're now at the point where the artists are working to install these during the soft landings period that we are about to enter. As you can see, that already kicked off some of these. In the top right, there's one of the artists installing an artwork in what I think is in the Trinity building. So hopefully you'll see those going up, and they'll all be installed by the end of this year, early next year. So we will have these sort of beautiful new vibrant artworks and murals throughout the buildings. So the idea is that it'll create a really sort of warm and welcoming environment for our staff and service users. So that's that. Just a bit more about Springfield Village. I know we've touched on it, but the site is really being transformed into this new community that will have, as Bruce has said, obviously our new facilities at the centre. There's over 800 new homes that are going in. Our old listed buildings, the 1840 building, is being renovated, and there's going to be new flats there. There's the new public square, Chapel Square, that I'll go into in a bit more detail shortly. 32-acre public parks, the biggest public park that's been developed in London since the 2012 Olympics. So we're really excited about that. It's going to open in 3 stages between 2023 and 2025. There's a new school that's going in, or land for a new school that's going to be provided, I should say, as part of the master plan. There's a new care home that's being developed. There's also, as part of what's called an Section 106 agreement for that supports the master plan, there are contributions to local transport infrastructure. And there's sort of the real important point about the next phase is that the sales of parts of our surplus estate at Springfield are supporting us to fund the redevelopment of Tolworth Hospital in Kingston, which, as Bruce mentioned at the start, will be delivered in 2025. So that's what the development looks like as a whole. And there you can just see a map that sort of sets out in a bit more detail and the timeline along the bottom. So as you can see, the park area is going to be delivered in 3 stages. So park area B, which is the largest area in the bottom left of that picture, will come online in spring summer next year, and areas A and C following in 2024 and 2025. The red areas are areas that are either currently being sold to residential developers for further housing developments, or have already been. In some cases, the white strip at the top is areas that Barratt London are developing into housing. The yellow blob in the middle, that's the list of buildings I mentioned that are being developed by heritage developer City and Country. The little purple square in the top left A, that's the land for the provision of a new school that's been provided to Wandsworth Council. And the square H, the pink one, that's the new care home. So that's what the site looks like as a whole. Bruce mentioned I was going to talk more about Chapel Square and the park as well. So we're going to have this, as Bruce said, new square in between Trinity and Shaftesbury building that will have retail facilities. There'll also be lots of amenities in the new park, including Pavilion Cafe, play areas. There's a youth shelter that we've worked with a local school to design for young people. And there's a real emphasis on permeability of the site, so new cycle routes, pedestrian routes through the site, opening it up to the community in a way that it perhaps hasn't been in the past. Mayfield Nursery and the Gymnastics Club are also going to continue operating from Chapel Square. And the sort of estate as a whole, the park in particular, the council, Wandsworth Council, have an option to adopt it, but if they don't, it'll be managed by an estate management company that will have partners from everyone on the site involved, really, the trust, residents, and so on. Just a bit more on Chapel Square on this slide. So we'll have a convenience store will be on the other side of the road, on the other side of Springfield Drive. But there'll also be a restaurant. There's some units for wellbeing health use still to be determined. There's a retail kiosk and also a cafe. So a really nice sort of social hub that we'll have in the centre of the site moving forward. There's a bit more on this slide on some of the amenities I mentioned that are going to be in the park, most of which, as you can see, will be in the top left in park area A. So the cafe, play areas, the youth shelter, there'll be community sensory gardens, the parking will be in that area. And then in the bottom right, we'll have amphitheatre seating and pedestrian cycle routes that I mentioned, one out to St George's Grove and another out to Streatham Cemetery at the bottom of the site. And that's the area that will open more towards 2025. Also, we wanted to flag that we're going to have some new roads going in that are going to cover the site at the minute. Glen Burnie Road is the address that covers most of the site. That will change from the 5th of September, and the new roads that you can see on this picture here will come into effect. So Springfield Drive, Seacole Walk, Lappridge Drive, Bicknell Way, and Elizabeth Newton Way. And so Springfield Drive will be the main route for the trust that takes you through past our buildings, through to Chapel Square, from the Glen Burnie Road entrance and the Burntwood Lane entrance. So that's just one to be aware of. You'll see that changing on all our official trust documentation, patient letters, etc., from the 5th of September. You'll also see new signage going in on the site from late summer. So we've been working with patients and service users and staff to co-produce new signage that will highlight where all our buildings are, and some nice new colour schemes going in there as well. You can see on the slide. We also didn't want to miss an opportunity to promote our annual public meeting to you. That's happening on Thursday, 21st of July, and it's going to focus heavily on the development of our new facilities, not just at Springfield, but also in Tolworth Hospital in Kingston, Barnes Hospital in Richmond, coming up in the years ahead. So do come along to that if you're free that evening. And then finally, we also wanted to share a reminder about our summer street party, which I hope you've heard about. We've been promoting it on our social media channels, on our website, sharing lots of emails about it. So that's happening at Springfield on Wednesday next week, and at Tolworth the week after on the 13th of July. So we've got lots of exciting things happening. I think a bake sale, we've got dance competitions, we've got I think exercise therapy classes happening, lots of different stalls with our teams sharing more information about the great work that they do, and lots of street vendors with lots of different cuisines from around the world. So it should be a really fun afternoon. So do come along if you can.